Testing 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Whether you're an intermediate, an expert, or a professional, getting ready for a big race can be a daunting task. As an Olympic coach and also former racer, listen, being ill prepared could be the worst thing that can happen when you spend a lot of time, money, traveling, showing up to the big race, not prepared. And in this episode, I want to give you my 3 best secrets to help you ensure that you're prepared and you're ready for the next big race. Let's talk about it. All right, hey guys, welcome back to another Tuesday night edition of BMX Coach Live. I'm your host, 3-time Olympic coach Greg Romero, and man, it's so wonderful to see all your guys' smiling faces, especially here live on YouTube. See David Bloor, Robert Field, people are coming in. Looks like we have a bunch of people that are flowing in. Man, it feels really good. Had a wonderful day today. Hope you guys are doing well. Here in San Diego, it's been great, man. We haven't had a whole lot of rain. The weather's getting better. People are starting to ride. San Diego BMX Racing is on its way. The track is coming back around, and man, we're excited. I'm excited. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are getting ready for that next big race. And I want to talk about some of these secrets about getting ready for a big race. Like I said, whether you're an intermediate or expert racer preparing for a key race that is circled on your calendar, such as a state qualifier, a national, or even the world championships or grands, listen, I know there are potential drawbacks and inadequate preparedness, such as, not showing up physically, emotionally, or mentally prepared. Hopefully my mic is working really well and the lights are on and I'm in focus. Hopefully everyone's doing good. VLC, hello from down under. Man, we got people from all over the place. Thank you very much for showing up. I appreciate the opportunity to be your coach. Let's talk about these secrets, right? Like, first off, I want to preempt that obviously I've had success in the high stakes game of coaching and guiding athletes to outstanding performances, right? Whether it's Olympic trials or the Olympic Games, or even for myself, getting ready for all these different events that I've raced, both as an amateur and also as a professional. I've spent more time, luckily, spending well over half of my career racing at the highest level of elite pro, and I've won over 100 pro races, and they rarely have been on accident. And so I want to give you the 3 secrets that I use for my Olympic athletes, including myself, to win all those professional races in an effort to get you guys to show up prepared and not leave the weekend disappointed, right? That's the whole thing. We don't want to leave the weekend disappointed. We want to leave the weekend with lots of feedback, lots of motivation for the next race, and to keep moving forward in BMX racing and also in life, because a lot of things that BMX is almost a direct reflection of how life is going sometimes, right? That's how sport is. Sport is a big magnifying glass of what's going on in your life. So being on track, preparing yourself physically, emotionally, mentally, also keeps you on track away from the track. Hopefully that makes sense. So, listen, one of the first things I want to talk about is secret number 1, and that's going to be planning and timing. And I took a bunch of notes today. I spent some time thinking about you guys. I was over at the coffee shop, and one of the things I thought about was planning and timing, reverse engineering, right? Like identifying what that race is, and then taking the opportunity to actually print out a calendar, put the race on the calendar, circle it, and then actually count how many weeks or days that you have to prepare for that race. And it's amazing. It's amazing. Even some of my clients, when I first start working with them, they don't do that. I'm like, hey, when's that next race coming up? And they're like, I don't know. It's like, what do you mean you don't know? Dude, like, you're trying to get ready. You're trying to get prepared. How do you not know? Like, you're just going to keep going through the motions. And then, when the race comes up, hopefully you're ready. No, winning doesn't happen on accident, and that's what we're going to get to here in a moment. But one of the things I want to talk about was the mistake of not knowing when the race is coming up. It's really crazy. They don't know the date. Therefore, they don't know how many weeks they have to prepare, and all of a sudden the week of the race shows up and they decide they need to get in race ready mode. And the truth is sometimes that could work, and at higher stakes BMX racing, it will fall short, right? Nationals, people are going to show up prepared. There's so many people out there that are way talented, putting a lot of time in. They're visualizing and establishing goals. They're hiring coaches. They're doing all the small things day in and day out. Someone's showing up prepared. And so if you fall anywhere short of that, right, then you're already a step behind. You're already a half wheel behind out of the gate. You're already a bike length short going into the first turn. So what I want to do is I want to be able to give you the preparedness to at least have a competitive edge, right? We want the competitive edge. We want the unfair competitive edge. And so the first thing we want to do earlier, like I said, is take a calendar, print it out, put it on the wall, and get a visual of what's going on. And looking at that calendar every day and marking off each day as it passed. And if you have a journal, you can also do that. Write down what you did for your training that day, write down your goals. Great way to monitor and stay on track. And, you know, the further out that you can prepare, the better. The problem is falling victim to what is called Parkinson's law. Okay, not to be confused with Parkinson's disease. If you're not familiar with Parkinson's law states that the amount of time needed to accomplish something will expand on itself. So, for example, you know, maybe some of you parents that are watching, or some of you kids that are currently in school are watching. You guys are assigned a school project, and you got 14 days. You got 2 weeks to do it and turn it in. And so what happens is Parkinson's law states that you'll actually utilize the entire time and procrastinate, and then on that 13th day, the day before it's due, that's when you cram in, do all this work and make sure that you get it done. And, you know, a lot of racers, whether they're expert or pros, looking to qualify for the Olympics, or they're looking to race a national or get ready for a grand national or the world championships, they will fall victim to this phenomenon, right? Oh, I got plenty of time. That race is not until 3 months out. 3 months out, 12 weeks, that's nothing. You know, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, go to the track, and I don't need to do anything extra. I don't need to prepare for that. I'll be prepared when I get there. And the truth of the matter is, again, there's too many racers out there that are hiring coaches that are practicing high performance habits physically, emotionally, mentally. Okay. So again, the best way to break that Parkinson's law is to have a weekly plan leading up to the event. Okay. So I would say at the very minimum, to be effective in transformation and preparation, is a minimum of a 4-week preparation block. That's at the very minimum. We're not talking 4 days. Okay. We're not talking 1 week. We're not talking 2 weeks. We're talking 4 weeks, right? Because, you know, and scientifically speaking, we want to be able to ramp up, and then perhaps the week of the race, we want to taper off that volume and benefit from the stimulus that we have imposed to create ourselves to be, whether it's bigger, faster, or stronger. Okay. Again, 4 weeks is going to be the minimum. 12 weeks would be ideal. 12 weeks would be perfect. And obviously, you know, in that 12-week period, you guys can actually mix in local racing, regional racing, state racing, national racing in an effort to have your eyes set on that big race that you have circled on your calendar. So figure out this date, print it out on a calendar, circle it, count how many weeks you have. Then the next secret is number 2. Okay. That is going to be planning your training plan. You know, the saying goes, what gets planned gets done. Okay. And what doesn't get planned doesn't get done. The most successful racers are actually great planners. Okay. Think about that. Let's check in. Sarah says, hi from Mateo, watching between sprints. Awesome. Andrew Burdett says, hey, Coach G. Robert Thiel says, Two-Wheel Tuesday. BMX Better says, sound great, Coach. Cool. Everything sounds great. I'm glad that the audio is working well. Again, the saying goes, what gets planned gets done. And so the secret to your training schedule is to pay attention to two things and two things only. Number one, are you addressing and imposing the needs for the event? Number two, are you watching the amount of volume of work that you're doing during each week? Okay. Now we'll go through each one of these. Number one, of course, we talked about imposing the needs of the event. Imposing the needs of the event is really simple. Knowing what to expect at the event, things like the track. The things I personally look at as a racer and a coach is in the priority of what's the gate? What's the starting hill like, right? How does the gate drop? What's the angle? What's the starting hill like? I want to be able to prepare for that visually and also physically, okay, as well as mentally. I want to be able to get as many submodalities as I can, right? Submodalities are what you see, what you hear, what you feel, and be able to replicate that in my training. And that way, when I show up to the event, I'm totally prepared. Again, how many pedals do I have to the first jump, from the gate to the first jump? Because I might want to practice specifically that amount of distance, right? And then that way, when I do my sprints, I'm visualizing accelerating to that first jump and getting ahead of the competition and getting out front and staying out front. Okay. How long is the first straight going to be? Is it flat and short, or is it downhill and long? All these things matter, right? Not every track is different. I'm sorry, not every track is the same. Okay. And of course, you want to understand what obstacles are going to be on the course, right? And what obstacles are going to be a challenge for you. Is there a rhythm section that's really deep? Is there a big pair of doubles that you might have trouble jumping, right? Because maybe you're 12, 13, 14 years old, and there's going to be an obstacle where some kid's going to get an unfair competitive advantage by jumping this jump, but it's really far and you're unsure of jumping that jump. So maybe that's something that you might need to prepare for before the event, leading up to the event, and you can prepare for that at your local track, for example. And of course, lastly, how long is the track? Do you have the fitness to make it around the track without even tiring out? Is it a short track? Is it a long track? Is it Las Vegas indoor? Is it Reno indoor? Okay. Is it going to be a challenge for you to get from the start all the way to finish? Is it outdoor? Is it at altitude? All these things matter. Okay. And then of course, the second component to that is to think about the competition. Who's going to be there? Okay. What can I expect from them? When we prepared for the Olympics as a coach, when I prepared my athletes, whether it was for the Olympic trials or the Olympic games, we knew exactly who was going to be there. We knew who was going to show up and be on the gate. And we would go so far out of the way to identify the racers, what their threats would be, right? What are their character traits? What are their riding habits? Can we psych them out? Can we get in their wheelhouse? Can we just get really close to them over a jump or into a turn? Or do they tend to leave the door open going into turns? Or they tend to leave the door open going down the second or third straight? Okay, all these things matter. Like that kind of preparedness makes a huge difference. And of course, it's all about getting an edge. It's all about preparedness. Okay. And then of course, identifying our own strengths, right? What are some of our own strengths that would be best to race against the competition also on the track? And prepare those strengths in the leading events up to the event, right? In the leading weeks up to the event, forgive me. And then of course, number two is getting to work. What kind of work and what is the volume of work? Now, when I speak the volume of work, we're talking about the amount of work, like how many sprints, how much time should you spend in the gym? How many reps? How many gates? How many first straights? How many rhythm sections? How many full laps do we need to do? Right? What's the magic number there? Okay, we'll talk about that here in a moment. But really getting the work, the specificity is more important than the volume of work, really, truly. And we want the way it would work in terms of figuring out our training plan. Number one, we have to identify what days are we going to the track in a week of a race. I'm sorry, in the week of your training schedule. So for example, down here at the Chula Vista Olympic Training Center, we're getting ready for, say, the Olympic Games. We're going to show up to the track Monday, Thursday, and then possibly a Saturday. Okay. Monday, Thursday, possibly a Saturday, okay, as an alternative. And then in between those days, we're going to go ahead and work in our strength work in the gym and also our recovery days, our rest, as well as our sprint work. Forgive me, my phone's going off. Okay. And then yeah, we also want to figure out the specific strength work and sprint work that complements the physical demands of the event that you have circled. As well as, obviously, we spoke about the track demands. What's the track like? We want to be able to mimic the demands at our local track. Okay. I'll give you an example really quick. It shouldn't take long. But I remember back in the day, there was a track called Orlando. It was obviously in Orlando, Florida, and it had a really long last straightaway, and there was a lot of pedaling. So one of the things I visualized when I was at my local track was making sure that when I did full lap work, that I pedaled 100% all out as much as I can coming out of that last turn. And sometimes I would even go as far as going past the finish line and mimicking the distance because it was really, really long. And I would visualize racing and pulling my competition down that last straight and making sure that I was visually, mentally, physically, emotionally prepared getting down that last straight. And it worked. I smoked everybody down the last straight when the race came up. So, little things like that. That's another secret, right? Like truly mimicking and visualizing what's going to happen. Even if you're not racing that exact track, you can mimic and recreate the visual representation of what it's like to race on that track and also against the competition. Okay. So now we have a planned training schedule, and now we just do the work, right? That's the whole key, is we want to set up that training schedule, do the work. I know I talked about volume, and really at the end of the day, volume's really tricky, right? Like how many gates do you need to do? How much track work you need to do? Listen, you want to be able to do as much as you can without compromising your technique. So that's up to you to decide. You have to figure that out. Hire a coach and help you figure it out, because there isn't one right answer that works for everybody. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. And then of course, once we have that training schedule established, we don't have to waste any time second guessing it. We know what to do, 12 weeks out. Week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. Maybe week 4 is a tapered week. We cut the volume in half, recover, and then we do another 4-week block. So out of a 12-week macro cycle, we get 4 builds, right? 3 4-week builds. And that's pretty much how it works in periodization. That's how it works. Let's move on to the next one. Let me go ahead and fix the camera on that. And I think this is looking pretty good. Goals and visualization. Voila. What do you know? Always, always, always helpful. Excuse me, I feel like I got something in my nose. I don't have any tissue paper. Anyways, creating goals, right? Like the third and last secret is goals and visualization. Would you guys like to know the secrets of the Olympic athletes when it comes to their goals and visualization? Because it's a daunting task to be, 4 years out, 2 years out, 8 weeks out, right? From either the Olympic trials and then the Olympic Games, right? Like it's knowing, it's so hard. It could be tough because it's like, okay, I want to go to the Olympics. I want to make the team. I want to race for my country, represent the country, make the team, and potentially get a medal. But man, you got to make that team first. So what's the criteria for that? Usually it's like performing at the World Championships. So maybe circling the World Championships and performing there and making the final and getting a podium will give you an automatic qualifying spot on the Olympic team. Maybe that's the goal, right? You get third or better there, you're making the team. Or you're making, I don't know if they do they're not going to do Olympic trials anymore, but we used to do Olympic trials. And so it would be really stressful to race the Olympic trials because things could go right and they can go wrong, right? And then you had a great year, and all of a sudden it comes down to that one last main event in Olympic trials. And I've been on both ends of that. I've out of 3 Olympic trials, 2 of my athletes, I've had an athlete all 3 Olympic trials that I coached at, and the only 3 that was ever available to the U.S. And I've won 2 out of 3. Not bad, but it's tough. That one that got away, that it's really, really tough. But listen, let's talk about the goals and visualization. All right, I don't want to get too far away. It's said that if you can't see it happening, it won't happen. Okay, if you can't see it happening, it won't happen. So visualization is key. And for me, again, I told you again, I've won over 100 pro events, right, at the national, international level. We're not talking like pro-ams. We're not talking, pro gold cups or anything like that. We're talking national and international level. And I can say that maybe less than a handful out of that 100, right? We're talking like less than 5%. Less than that, right? Less than 1%. Were actually won without a visual intent on winning, right? What I'm trying to say is that rarely winning happens on accident, and that well over 95% of the time, for me and my athletes I get to coach, winning happens on purpose. Okay, so you have to have that purpose. You have to have that purpose, right? Like, where do we even begin with purpose? What does purpose mean? What does purpose mean to you? And so purpose for me, it's 2 things. Number 1, having a goal. And second is having a visual representation of what that goal looks like. Would you guys like to hear more about how we create goals? Yeah, let's do that. Creating goals can be tricky and complex, or it can be simple for some, all right? So the problem I find with people who create goals is that they lack the courage to create big ones. People tend to be too realistic. And the problem with creating realistic goals, as opposed to going after bigger goals that elevate us, is that it still requires the same amount of work, right? If you're going to create a goal, listen, it's the same amount of work, whether it's to get number 1 or if it's to finish last in the main event. It's the same amount of work. So you might as well create bigger goals, and I'll explain that here in a moment. I want you to think about that. The most common reason is that people don't want to create such huge goals because they don't want to experience disappointment or failure. And of course, we over here at BMX Training, as well as coaching my other athletes, all my athletes, there is no such thing as failure, only feedback. We want that feedback. I'm always teaching my guys to go for the win, regardless if they win. You got to train yourself to automatically go for the win and be the best that you could be. Okay, I think that's key, right? That's the key to life, is to try to be your best at all times. And of course, this is in an effort to grow and elevate and raise your baseline of your racing performance and ability. Because if you just like, I just want to see if I can make it out of motos. I want to see if, I think I had someone hit me up about Worlds coaching today, and they're like, look, I want to make the final and then make it out of the motos on my 20-inch. I want to make the final on my cruiser and make it out of the motos. Well, why don't you just make the final on the cruiser, go for gold, and then let's make the final in 20-inch rather than just trying to make it out of the motos. It's the same amount of work, right? Like, if you could create a vision of what that success will look like, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. The secret of success is having a visualization. It's having a visualized interpretation of the success that you want. And if you have that picture, then it can happen. If you don't have that picture, it's not going to happen. Again, winning doesn't happen on accident. All right, it just doesn't. It's rare unless someone falls, right? Like, I could think of somebody that, became a World Cup champion at a UCI World Cup that made the main, wasn't really lighting things up, but 6 people fell in the first turn and they got away from, being in 7th place and they were gone. That it happens, right? But it doesn't happen every main event for every age group. It just doesn't, right? BMX is all about getting the whole shot. It's all about getting out front. And well over 80% of the time, the person that grabs a whole shot is going to win. The odds are for them, not against them. So, that's the problem, right? Like, a lot of people tend to create negative goals. For example, one might say, I don't know what position I will get. I just don't want to get motoed. Okay, well, we've talked about this before. The unconscious mind doesn't understand negatives. Right? So all of a sudden you're focusing on getting motoed. I'm getting all excited here. I got to calm down and take a breath. at the end of the day, you don't want to focus on negatives because and when I mean a negative, that means anything that requires a don't in the sentence. I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to fall. I don't want to lose. I don't want to get motoed. I don't want to get disqualified. Whatever. I don't want to lose my sponsor, right? Like who wants to operate from a negative resource? Look, it's totally possible that you could totally operate from a negative motivator, but it's not sustainable. And it's not good in life because it requires too much stress. And that stress is like double, triple of the energy required to do the work, right? As opposed to coming from a place of abundance, right? As opposed to lack, right? Like right now, I'm doing this out of love. If I did this out of necessity, then this live show would suck. I mean, straight up. I'm doing this because I love to coach. I want to give back. It's coming from a place of abundance. So when it comes to your racing, you want to come from a place of going after big goals. When you go after big goals, you're going to feel good about it. Okay. All right. We'll get to that. The feelings here in a moment. I'm getting ahead of myself. But again, the unconscious mind doesn't understand negative. So you don't want to focus on negative goals, right? You want to move towards what you want. Successful people in life that are in control of their intent focus on moving towards what they want. Okay, so create big goals for growth and raising your baseline performance. And lastly, having visualization is a key to having success. And this includes 3 parts. All right, let's talk about visualization. All right, you guys still with me? Cool. All right, so let me get a drink of water. All right, we're almost done here. Visualization is a key to having success, and this includes 3 parts. Number 1, literally having a visualization of what success looks like. All right, having one or several images in your mind. I call it a mind movie. And sometimes it consists of several images that are stitched together, almost like an Instagram reel or TikTok video. Okay, and these images are stitched together. The other is having these images represented as if the success already happened, all right? And not before it happened. For example, if you have a visual representation of winning the main, but your mind movie only plays you making the main, then your unconscious mind only knows the programming of you making the main. Once you get there, it's not going to know how to win, okay? And when I coach my athletes, I always ask them, hey, what is it do you want? How will you know when you have it? So in other words, what's your goal for the event? How will you know when you have achieved that goal? And athletes will be like, oh, when I crossed it, like their goal would be like, I'm winning the main at the World Championships. How will you know when you have achieved that goal? Oh, when I made the main. Okay. If that's your visual representation, tell me more. Tell me, how are you going to program your subconscious mind on how it's going to win? It needs a direct order, right? The conscious mind is the one that's giving the order. The unconscious mind is taking the order and you're giving it direction. Okay. So for all purposes and intents, pardon the pun, we definitely want to program our unconscious mind as if we already accomplished the goal. So that means, either you literally crossed the line and you won the World Championships, or you're on the podium receiving the award. And getting the visual representation of what that's like, literally crossing the line, literally being on the podium. Hey, what do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? I see a lot of people in the stands. I see flags. I hear people cheering for me. I hear my mom and dad, saying, wow, I'm really proud of Greg. And I'm feeling, getting the feelings, eliciting the feelings. I'm feeling empowered, successful, confident. I'm feeling excited. I'm feeling motivated. And then all of a sudden you realize, wow, okay, those feelings that I just elicited from creating that visual representation of what my goal will look like when I have already achieved it, that's who I need to be. Those feelings are going to be the resources of how you need to feel day to day, day in, day out, in your training, away from training, right? It's totally possible for you to be in those states like 90% of the time, right? You don't need to be all doom and gloom and worry all the time. Why not be the opposite, right? How are you going to feel when you accomplish that goal? Confident, excited, powerful, right? Motivated. Oh, those feelings are the feelings that you need to be in at all times. Goals are all about who you become on the path to get there. Sometimes accomplishing that goal will not give you those things, okay? It's a lot better to become the things that you need to be now on the path towards that event. Because anything can happen in BMX. Let's say that you had an awesome race and I don't know, maybe you got a flat tire. Maybe your clip, you blew out your clip coming out of the last corner at the World Championship winning. Man, you did everything you could. And that way, yeah, will there be disappointment? Still, you programmed yourself to be empowered, confident, motivated, joyful, excited. That's who you are. That's who you're becoming. Goals are all about who you become. People get too caught up on accomplishing a goal to become something. That's kind of backwards. It's all about who you become, guys. All right. Okay, so let me see. Let me take a look at my notes. Is there anything else? I said the key with goals is turning into the person you want to be and doing it right away, right? Like figure out what that visualization is. How are you going to feel when you accomplish the goals and become that person right away? Start being that person right now. Okay. Again, I've tried it all coming from a place of internal success. Coming from that place of internal success only brings more enjoyment to the external success, right? Okay. Well, good luck. Guys, I think that's about it when it comes to this presentation of the 3 secrets of, at the highest level, integrating this into state, gold cup, double pointer, triple pointer, going from intermediate to expert, what have you. These guys, again, these ideas, these secrets are easily integratable into your program. If you guys in the chat, if you guys can think of any questions, I'm looking forward to answering those. We'll spend about 15-20 minutes talking to you guys here. Again, my name is Greg Romero, 3-time Olympic coach, and I'm happy to be your coach. I'm honored to be your coach. I'm super grateful for the opportunity, and I'll be back with you guys here in a moment to talk to the audience and answer those questions. All right. Hey guys, I have a question. What would it do for you if you could enhance your power out of the gate, enhance your sprint speed down the first straight, enhance your skills, enhance your mental performance mind state? What would that do for your racing or your kids' racing? If you're seeing the value of enhancing your BMX performance, consider joining the community of BMX Training Pro and get the same access my Olympic athletes have enjoyed, as well as thousands of BMXers all over the world. Some members use the access to improve their gate start techniques. Some also use the access to keep them motivated to train, and you'll find your reason when you gain access and join BMX Training Pro today.
Stay focused, get ready now. For real, get ready now.
Nitro with the nice flow.
Stay focused, get ready now. For real, get ready now. Let's go. Stay focused, hear the heat come. Concentrate to the sound of the beat drum. Yeah. Start it up, take it back now. Check it out. This is how it's going down. Yeah.
Testing 1 2 1 2 1 2. Okay, great. The audio is working. Every time I fire up this program, sometimes the audio, I have to resync the audio to all these video cards. Anyways, Andrew Burdett has a comment here. He says, I might not be speaking for everyone, but local states and maybe regional could be the crowd. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. That is the crowd. And really at the end of the day, I would say nothing's different in terms of a national Olympic level, right? It's the same thing, especially for guys that are trying to elevate from the local state and get to that national level. You guys, again, I'm not going to teach you guys anything that you couldn't integrate easily and effortlessly. All right. Yes, T-Rom says we are live. Shaggy Miller says, thanks, Coach G. Shane Anzai from Hawaii says, sup, Coach. Aloha, brada. JP says, hey, Coach. And what else do we got going on? What other questions do we have? Yeah, and Andrew Burdette says, I got you. Yeah, I got you too, brother. All right, so we got a lot of people live, a lot of viewers, but I only see like 5 of you guys commenting. So this is your best opportunity to come up with the questions. Don't be scared. Come out of the hole, answer a question, ask a question, and I'll do my best to answer it. I appreciate you guys, and it's an honor, and I'm grateful to be your coach today and tonight. And yeah, that's right. T-Rom, we are live. All right, so we got it. Fire out the questions, guys. Don't just sit there. Don't be a fan, be a participant. Biking better, I love that. Coach, he says, Coach, I'm going to be racing outside my local area for the first time. Ooh, man, that's awesome. A little nervous about different tracks and seeing how I match up somewhere else. Plus, haven't been on the track healthy since July. Cool. So he just has a comment. Do you have a question for me? How can I help you biking better to be biking and racing better in that regional that you're going to be doing here soon? You know, I'll help you out a little bit, right? Because I don't understand the context here, but you said a little nervous about different tracks. I really would reframe that as excitement. You're excited to go to the track and race different tracks and race different people. And really it's an opportunity for growth, right? You got to look at everything as an opportunity. Seriously. I'm telling you, life is better when you look at everything as an opportunity. And I'm not saying that you're not, but I'm just adding more rocket fuel to the excitement of you racing another track and racing newer riders, right? How exciting is that? You get to grow and you get to race against newer riders and riders that you've never seen before. What a great way of opportunity for growth and development. All right. Days Rock says, thank you for the show, Coach. Awesome. Does anyone have any questions besides comments? I love the comments. I love the comments, right? We got a lot of comments, right? Like Andrew Brudette says, I gotcha. T-Rom says, we are live. Shaggy Miller says, thanks, Coach G. What's going on with the CPU on my computer is freezing up. I'm going to get a new laptop this week. My 2016 MacBook Pro isn't able to handle the processing power that's needed to operate my live streaming. And look at this right now. It's acting weird. All right. Do I have a backup social page? Okay, it's a little slow. So Days Rock says, thank you for the show, Coach. I appreciate that. All right. We have a comment from David Bloor. David says, I have a friend who's scared of hitting obstacles too fast, usually on the first straight, then is stuck racing from the rear. What should he do to overcome his fear of getting launched? Great one. I like that. Yeah, so, first off, we got to find the source of fear, right? Like you said you have a friend who's scared of hitting obstacles too fast, usually on the first straight, and then he's stuck in the rear of the back of the pack. And what should he do to overcome this fear of getting launched off the bike, off the jump? Well, I think the first thing you need to identify is what's creating this fear. Was there a prior accident? Because that's the problem with most people in BMX, especially younger children, when they crash down the first straight, especially right out of the gate, They put a meaning on it. Wow, coming out of the gate means I'm going to crash. So therefore, parents might find themselves struggling with their kid because the kid is backing off out of the gate and they're spending all this time and money. The kid's practicing well, then all of a sudden he enters a race and they travel far to a national, go to a regional, go to the world championships. And it's like, oh, wow, Timmy's not going 100% from the gate. What's going on? I'm pulling the hair out of my head. I don't get it. Coach G, can you help me? Yeah, you have to reframe and change the meaning of coming out of the gate and also going as fast as you can down the first straight. That's super important. All right. And there's many tools to do that. I'm not going to discuss those tools, but if your friend here, David, needs some help, I do work like that. I do change work using some mental and emotional release therapy work. I'm actually a licensed therapist to do that kind of work. But we're not going to talk about that. But that's basically what you need to do. The next thing that you could do it the hard way. You could just keep building up confidence, right? And that means, number one, getting used to riding your bike over jumps, developing technique, building up your confidence. And then once you build up your confidence to hit the jump adequately, then you could add more speed, right? That would be the formula and the recipe in terms of overcoming any kind of fear that one may have of going really fast down the first straight and going over obstacles really fast, especially with guys that are next to you and close to you. You have to work on the fundamentals, right? Like racing for somebody that's new to the sport of BMX racing the first time. It's a real daunting task because number one, you got to know how to ride the bike. Number two, you got to know how to ride the track. Okay, those are two things independently. You got to know how to ride a bike, got to know how to ride the track, and then navigate the track. Next, you got to be able to do it fast, and then you got to be able to do it with other riders. Super complex, right? And I didn't really realize that because racing to me came really natural to me as I got older because I started earlier, didn't realize how hard it was. But it didn't really come to me until I started actually taking up adult league hockey, right? Out of nowhere, I was like, hey, you know what? I want to just start ice skating. I want to play hockey. Had no idea how to ice skate. Well, had to learn how to skate. Okay. Once I learned how to skate, I had to learn how to skate like an ice hockey skater, right? Doing stops, doing backward, forward to backward pivots, learning how to do backward crossovers, learning how to, stick handle and handle a puck, and then being able to learn the game to integrate skating, stick handling around the concept of other skaters trying to play a game. It's a lot of stuff going on, right? So much respect to any new BMXer that comes in and wants to learn and do well at BMX racing. And in all honesty, for a lot of you guys that are watching the show, the best thing that I can ask from you is to teach and share with other riders what you know, what your knowledge is, and help them with the progression because it's not easy. That's why I'm here. I know it's not easy. It's not. That's why I coach. Victor says he's a coach, first year as a USA BMX coach, developing new rider programs for our local. Your training is awesome. Love listening. Do you have any tips or training technique for a newer coach? Yes, absolutely. It's communication, right? Coaching is all about influencing somebody to influence themselves. Just like parenting, that's coaching, right? That's it, right? Of course, there's, as a coach, you're in an authoritative position and you could give a direct command and say, hey, do that like this and do it now, right? But at the end of the day, communication is key. Having rapport is key. So communication means having rapport. Do you have that communication rapport? Do they know you, like you, trust you? Do they trust that you're not going to call them out, that you're not going to shame them, that you're not going to make them feel bad, right? Giving them positive feedback before you actually give them the correction. So what does that mean? I tell parents all the time, hey, when you talk to Matthew, when he comes back, if he had a bad lap, you want to give them praise on what they did right, and then give them the opportunity to explain and let them render what they did wrong, or rather what they could have done better. Because kids know, riders know, whether you're a kid, whether you're an older kid like myself, we know what we have done wrong on the track. So it's all about communication and eliciting and giving that rider an opportunity to be responsible, right? To be able to voice their frustration, to be able to be accountable and liberated and say, you know what? Thank you for telling me what I did right. And you know what? This is what I could have done better. I'm sorry, right? You want to be able to tell them what they did right and say, hey, what could you have done better? So that's, in terms of communication, that's a key one, especially when you're working one-on-one. But when you're working with a group, it's all about giving everyone praise and equal praise. Okay, I learned that at the Olympic level. Coaching women, right? Like, if you coach one woman, you don't praise. If you praise one woman but don't praise the others, man, they're gonna hate that other girl, and it happens all the time. So, giving equal praise, developing rapport, know, like, and trust. Okay, and then making sure that you're guiding them to influence themselves. Jack Baker, hey, I'm sorry I wasn't here. I was at the movies. That's great. Dude, Jack, man, you're fired, right? Movies over the live show, come on. All right, guys, more questions, please. Don't be scared. I'm here for you guys. I love the questions. Biking better, we already answered that one. So who else do we got? What else do we have? What else can I talk about? Here we go. Days Rock. Thank you very much, Days Rock, for showing up and having the courage to ask a question for me. Guys, ask a question. Anything, anything. Days Rock says, any tips when classing into the classes that start bunching up the ages? Classing into the classes. All right, let me interpret that. All right, we have VLC05 from Down Under. He's giving me a question about visualization. We'll come back. Days Rock says, any tips when classing into the classes that start bunching up the ages? So let me interpret that. Do you mean any tips on when they combine age groups and proficiencies? Like, let's say, I'm a 12-year-old intermediate and they're going to put me in with 10-year-old experts and 14-year-old intermediates. Any tips? Listen, first off, you have to look at everything as an opportunity. Everything is mental and emotional in everything we do in BMX. It has to start there. So how are we going to look at it? Are we going to be like, oh man, this is a bummer. This really sucks. I wish there was more riders and I'm really bummed out. And I'm wasting my time. I'm wasting my money. I don't even know if I'm going to do good. I'm probably going to get last, right? Like, you got to be like, dude, I'm stepping up. I don't care who's on the gate. I don't care who's on the gate. I'm looking at it as an opportunity. Let's go, right? Like, it's all about the mental mindset and giving yourself the best fuel and the best opportunity to race the heck out of the bike, right? Racing the bike is already hard enough. It's already hard enough to ride the bike and race and navigate the track and race other riders. Why would you want to get on the track with a negative motivator? Doesn't work. So you guys, as BMX racers, you got to look at the positives. You got to look at everything through a positive lens, through a positive filter. Okay? And look at everything as an opportunity. Days, thank you very much. That's my best tip, man. All right, keep asking questions, guys, because I got about 10 more minutes. I cooked an awesome spaghetti sauce last night. So I made enchiladas and spaghetti sauce at the same time because I only had one onion left and I needed onion for both of those dishes. And if you guys don't know me, I love to cook. I love recipes. I love the art and creativity and how my brain gets into the flow of cooking. And so, man, I'm looking forward to trying out my spaghetti sauce that's been marinating in the fridge all night, 24 hours, We're going to heat that sucker up, cook some fresh pasta, and make some spaghetti. Man, I'm getting hungry, and you guys are hungry for some information, so I'm going to give it to you. We have another one from Down Under, VLC05L. I love that. Can you give me more examples of things that you visualize? Yeah, I think a moment ago, back in the earlier part of the show, we talked about visualization and how visualization is really key to success. Like, if you can't visualize it, how are you going to accomplish it, right? You got to be able to see it, then you do it. If you can't see it, it's not going to happen. If you can't see yourself coming out of the gate really fast, powerful, and strong, grabbing the whole shot, it's not going to happen, right? So visualization is key. It's key in terms of programming yourself of what you need to do neurologically, right? We're basically beings that depend on the central nervous system, the brain telling the muscles and everything what to do, right? The unconscious mind is in the central nervous system, right? All throughout the body. And so we want to be able to visualize and program that into our body. Now, and other things that we can visualize besides overall success, right? Like earlier we talked about success as if we already accomplished it, okay? Right? And the key with that, of course, was programming what we need to do, right? Like programming our entire roadmap of success. Because life is dynamic. Not every day is the same. A lot of habits are the same, but we have to navigate life as it comes. We got to navigate weather. We got to navigate other people. We got to navigate setbacks. We got to navigate so much. So you have to be able to be flexible. Like when an airplane takes off, it's not a straight linear line from San Diego all the way to Rock Hill, South Carolina. It's just not, right? We get up in the air, we got to navigate weather. We have to navigate other airplanes. We got to navigate different altitudes. And so that's the part with visualization, is having that end goal, and sometimes and just really relying on the fact that you're going to get there, and not so and have some flexibility on the actual process, right? Because the process is going to undulate, just like traveling on an airplane. So of course that's one way, long-term way of visualization. Now short-term visualization would be, if you're getting into the gate and you're getting ready to you're getting ready for a moto or a semi or a final, then yes, visualizing yourself getting out of the gate, getting ahead of the competition, grabbing the whole shot, and getting into that first turn aggressively, right? A simple visualization of that would be key. And then, of course, understanding, like, what are the feelings? What are you going to feel like? Who do you need to be? Who do you need to be in an effort to get that whole shot? Maybe you need to be excited. You need to be aggressive. You need to be confident. Oh, and then those three things, that aggressive, excitement, confident, that needs to be your performance mind state. So visualization is really key in an effort to help you elicit the feelings that are going to create the performance mind state that you need to be in when you get into the gate. Visualization is just not one component. It's several components, right? It's helping out other submodalities, right? Performance mind state is all about feeling, being in that proper state, because everything is state dependent, right? Me to talk to you guys, I got to be focused. I got to be in the moment. I can't be worried about the cars driving outside, the noise, the smell of that spaghetti, the aroma coming through the door because I'm hungry. I got to be here right now. I got to be focused. I got to be excited. I got to be confident that I'm going to give you guys the best knowledge that I can from my unconscious mind, and trust myself and be congruent with the information I'm giving you. All right. That's a lot, right? Like I'm pouring it on you guys, but man, I really love this. What other questions we got? Okay, let's go to the next one. Low and Slow, and then Shaggy Miller has one. So we got two, and that's great. Any more questions, guys? Keep them coming. Low and Slow says, any suggestions on clip shoes, brands, which one? New to that whole thing, so just trying to figure out a good pair. Wow, okay. Now, please forgive me, but equipment is really not my thing in terms of specificity of brands. Things are always changing. I know this much. For me, I love mountain bike clip shoes, okay, for a reason of performance. I like the specialized clip shoes, the mountain bike style, S-Works preferably. I love the uppers. I love the leather. I love how they form. They're form fitting, and they're really truly form fitting for a lot of feet. And also, I love the carbon fiber sole that's really stiff, and that way I can get a nice power transfer into that pedal. Now, in terms of pedals, I really like the Shimano system. Okay, I really trust that system. Easy to use. I know how to work the tension, and it's great. That's about all I got for clip pedals, right? There's other brands out there. I know there's, well, if there's other guys that can help out low and slow in terms of brands and what you guys run, help him out. That's what we have the community for. Thank you very much. What else do we have here? Jack Baker, tips to not be scared of jumping. Okay, Shaggy Miller, I want to get to that one. Shaggy Miller says, I'm up 30 pounds from the winter and scared to go hard at the track. Do I keep putting myself through races to see where I'm at, or just focus on training and come back to racing when I'm fit? I think you could do both. Why not? I totally think that you could go to the track, work on your skills, and get the feedback. Where are you at? Okay. The good news is that BMX is, for the most part, it's a gross power sport. Gross power sport meaning the strongest guy is usually going to be the fastest guy, sometimes irregardless of how much you weigh, right? Like, that's the thing. Parents get caught up on power to weight in terms of let's lighten up the bike. Let's buy titanium this and carbon fiber that and titanium spokes and better bearings. It's like, dude, get the kid a training program. Let's make him stronger. Okay, that's where you're going to get the best gains. That's where you're going to get the most bang for the buck. So I would suggest, Shaggy, honestly, go to the track, get some feedback, keep working on your skills, and then work on your diet, work on your training simultaneously. I see no problems with doing that, right? Like, why would you want to wait to get fit in an effort to start racing? Why not just start racing? That's my best advice. Thank you very much. What else do we got? Andrew Burdett, Coach, we all get fat. We all got fat. He speaks for everybody. I got to put that up. Andrew Burdett, Coach, we all got fat. I mean, everyone has fat, right? Like, it just depends on how much fat you got. Let's go, Cane City BMX team checking in. Yeah, that's right. How can I help you guys? Hey guys, is anybody here going to the World Championships? I'm really curious. Let me know if you are. Send me an email, info@bmxtraining.com. I have an opportunity for you. There was another question here. Jack Baker. Jack Baker says, tips to not be scared of jumping. Easy. Be excited. Right? Scared is an interpretation, right? Scared is like, it's feedback of thoughts and feelings, right? Like, what's going on? What does scared mean to you, right? For the most part, scared might mean, I'm anxious, I'm nervous, I'm scared of falling. Okay? Well, then you have to reframe it and focus on the outcome that you want, right? If you're scared of falling, then you got to be focused on landing on the backside smooth, okay? Right? Being able to see yourself and visualize yourself through your own eyes of what it's like to actually get through that jump smooth and successful, right? Smooth and successful. There you go. You want to say that to yourself, smooth and successful. If you're thinking about, oh man, I don't want to crash, what's going to happen? We talked about earlier, Jack, you missed it in the beginning of the show. We talked about how the unconscious mind doesn't understand negatives. So anything that you don't want, it's more than likely going to happen because that's what you're focusing on, right? If you're focusing on not wanting to crash, you're going to jump it half-ass, straight up. And if you jump it half-ass because you're scared of not crashing, what's going to happen? You're going to come up short. You're going to nose bonk it. You're going to 50-50 it, and it's going to hurt, and you're going to keep repeating the process. So focus on the feelings of what it's going to be like when you visualize yourself jumping it smooth and successful. I do this with my athletes all the time. You're not the only one. A lot of guys, even at the Olympic level, people are scared of jumps. If you guys look at those jumps, they're freaking crazy, man. You guys look at that first jump at the Hardesty, Edmond. Where is it? Hardesty. I said Edmond. I'm talking about Oklahoma. No, I'm sorry, Tulsa. Forgive me, Tulsa. That indoor facility that USA BMX has as a headquarter. That jump coming off the 8-meter side, that's really long and super floaty and has a big kicker. Watching juniors and people like that are not normally used to hitting jumps like that. Man, they look timid. They look frozen. And I would be too. And it's really close to a wall. It's like, oh my gosh, that wall to the left. Crazy. The Australian tells jumping, says to Jack Baker, jumping, just send it. Yeah, that's it. Sometimes you just have to do it, right? Like, let's bring that up. VLC, thank you very much, man. This is a really good point. Don't think, just do. That's it, right? Like one of my favorite guys that I've been studying lately is a guy named Wim Hof. He's a Dutch guy from the Netherlands. Of course, you could be a Dutch guy that's from China. It's very possible. I'm a Filipino guy from America. But listen, Wim Hof talks to guys that are getting into cold plunges and cold water for many benefits, mental, emotional benefits, and physical benefits. And people go in there and they jump into the cold water and they start panicking and their brain goes crazy and they enter fight and flight mode, right? Because that's the thing, right? Like fear triggers fight or flight mode. We want to protect ourselves. So we want to be able to move towards parasympathetic, right? Sympathetic and parasympathetic. Being relaxed and ready as opposed to being in fight or flight, being super tight, right? Being super tight hitting a jump isn't fun, but being relaxed and ready and being flowy, it's easier. So what VLC is saying, just send it. What Wim Hof is saying is, don't think, just do. Just do it. Jump into the cold plunge, 2 feet in, all the way to the bottom. Get cold, neck high. Don't think. Focus on your breathing and handle it, right? And in the case of sending jumps, get into that flowy state, right? Get into that flowy state. That's the key. All right, what other questions do we have? Guys, we're doing pretty good. Again, man, I'm really excited here. Ooh, it's 6:35. Time for some spaghetti. Jack Baker says, thank you. Guys, man, listen, it's, as always, it's an honor and I'm grateful to be your coach. Thank you very much for showing up. If no one showed up, this would be really tough. I'd be talking to myself. And so I'm really honored. And I'm really want to give props to guys that are asking questions. So I see there's a ton of guys that are watching and they're just kind of in the background. And thank you very much, Andrew Burdett, for the $10 donation towards the channel. Devin Porcella says, do you have any props on like leveling the bike? So we have another question. We'll take it. Again, Andrew Burdett, come to Waterford Oaks and do some pep talks. Jeff Upshaw is stopping by again this year. We do a huge beginner league and the turnout is awesome. Love your talks. Thank you. Andrew, I would love the opportunity to make it out to Waterford Oaks. How can we make it happen? I would love that. Hit me up. Okay. Basic BMX checking in, coach. Good to see you, LAD. We also have another question I want to get to before I get to my spaghetti, which I cooked last night. I'm looking forward to having it. Devin says, do you have any props? Props? Oh, do you have any props? Is it like a prop, like a Hollywood movie prop, right? Do you have any props on like leveling the bike when jumping? Because what he meant to say is tips, right? Do you have any tips on like leveling the bike when jumping? Because usually when I jump, the back end hangs down and doesn't look good. Okay, you're kind of sagging the rear end. Well, as long as that you're bringing the rear end back up and leveling the bike last minute to catch the backside, then I think you're okay, right? There's a difference between looking good and also being fast and low. So it's kind of hard for me to interpret that question. Now, if you're saying, hey, when I jump, it looks like I'm just hanging on for dear life and I end up landing that way, then the one thing that we want to do is we want to focus on practicing getting the rear end up, right? So if the front end comes up, we got to get the rear end to come up, right? What comes up must come back down in an effort to successfully jump and land smoothly. So here's one tip that you could do very easily. Find a roller, a small roller, right? And what you want to do is you want to focus on coming up the roller, getting the front end up, jumping up like a bunny hop up it, and then drop the front end back down into the roller. Something small. Doesn't have to be big. It's got to be enough to where you can actually get a bunny hop to where you figure out this motion of getting the front end up along with the rear end up, leveling the bike out, and then dropping it back down. Okay? Boom. Bunny hop technique, right? And maybe perhaps do that with flat pedals. Absolutely. I don't know where you're at, but I'm going to presuppose that you're probably on flat pedals, or maybe you're speaking on behalf of a kid or a child of yours. Practice with flat pedals, okay? And that way they get used to manipulating the bike without the use of clip pedals, right? Getting that pop off the feet, and then of course using the upper body, using the entire body, and manipulating the bike to do this motion, right? Front end up, front end down, rear end follows, okay? Hopefully that helps. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for the last question. Again, it's always an honor to be your coach. Guys, I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Until then, keep practicing hard, keep riding hard, keep showing up, playing in the arena, right? Showing up to the track is more than half the battle. Keep working on your gates, keep working on your first straights, keep working on grabbing the whole shot, keep working on winning more races. I'll see you guys next week. Adios, and I'm out.